Okay, and I am back. Okay, hello again, everybody. So, I promised I would finish it, and here we are. And this is part 4 of, part 2? BattleTech, mechwarrior lore, the Amaris Civil War, Collapse of the Star League, part 2. If I remember right, this is the part where Kerensky gets serious, about ending the evil bib-wearing mustache guy. So, that's about what I remember. Okay, and let's continue. So, it's nice to be back again. I got some time, so I could do this really quick. I've remembered how to do the recording thingy, without streaming. So, yeah. And let's jump in.
The orbital battle stations guarding the jump points. For Kerensky, it was a welcome challenge. Kerensky had made a career by embracing creative problem solving. Kerensky took 20 jump ships loaded to the gills, carrying between them a sum total of 60 dropships. Each dropship was stripped of weapons, packed with extra armor and craploads of explosives, and then autopiloted into kamikaze attacks en masse to destroy the stations. And there was the goddamn drone fleet to worry about. If they converged on the drop points, Kerensky would be cut apart piecemeal if his forces arrived. 2 ships cannot occupy the same point in space, so jumps would have to be staggered. If the fleet arrived one by one, they'd die to the drone ships and their firepower defending the jump points. So, at this point, a sacrifice was needed. Volunteers from the SLDF Navy formed a separate flotilla, and they jumped to a dangerous pirate point in system, an act risking misjumping into God knows where. This flotilla had one objective: pull the drone fleet away from the jump points and take as many as they could with them. And so...
Oh, okay, so now I kind of remember that, just, how much was, in space, to defend, I believe the solar system of, for, Terra, which is Earth, with a lot. So they're talking about, just swarms of drones, which I've seen some of the videos of, drones doing things, in the current year. So I can only imagine, I mean, that's just... It's a little crazy to imagine. Because, I see what, the tiny drones we have nowadays do, right? And then, seeing the videos from, the war overseas, and it's, trying to imagine that, scaled up to, space. That's scary. Not to mention, volunteering to be on the ships that are, basically are gonna go die. And stories like this are based on real life. We don't love men enough, and we don't hate feminists enough.
Oh, they did. The Star League drone task force went down like screaming banshees, cutting a swath through the drone fleet. Warships, kamikaze drone ships cut the fleet to pieces. The Star League anti-drone task force hammered the drones at any range, ramming when weapons failed, sacrificing themselves for their mission. The debris field from this battle stretched half the solar system. In the end, the SLDF anti-drone task force died a glorious death. Each and every ship burned to cinders by thinking machines. However, their sacrifice brought Kerensky an opening. 40 brave and mad crews had destroyed over 100 drone ships in a 2-day manic space battle. Brave lads, all of them. With the jump points now clean, 932 warships converged from 8 separate staging worlds and began...
I'm just thinking, 40 versus, like, 100-ish? I bet to the people that would, like, volunteer for these things, because I hear the stories, right? Or I read them. Or I watch them on YouTube. I can only, like, imagine just saying, let me go die for this. Like, to my mind, that's not something I would want or desire to do. But just imagining, like, what it takes to just say, I will go die for this. I will go and get killed. So the mission can be successful. And this is one of those things that, like, I know people hate when I talk about Badger too much. But it's one of the things I love about him. Like I said, we don't love men enough, and the fact that this is something that can be, like, very natural for them, it's just not appreciated enough. And from when I was streaming this, people were telling me that this was based off real life, like things that actually happened. So I'm just like, where is the true, like, love and appreciation that should be universal for men, for, like, everything they've done. Because, I mean, it's both cool stories, but they're also sad and tragic, too, because it's like, I'm sure, like, in this universe, they get some appreciation. But, I mean, in, like, real life, like, nowadays, there's none. In fact, they're hated now. But it's just like, but how and why? I mean, Badger saved my life. I mean, it was him versus 4 guys. And I've seen what he can do to 4 people at once. But he saved me. There's millions of men that save people every day. And they build things and they put things, like, we need to love men more. That's what I'll say about it. Because, like, just hearing the story, it's like, it's both heartbreaking, but at the same time, it's like what men do for everyone else. So it's also cool, despite it being tragic and a little sad because of, casualties, but, like, well, anyway, everyone tell me what you think when you leave a comment. Because me personally, I'm like, there's a lot of stories about how cool men can be, but not enough stories about how appreciated they are. Am I a men's rights? What are they called? I had a girl at work ask me about this. But what was it? She was like a men's rights actor or something like that. Activist. No, activist. Am I a men's rights activist now? I love it. Really. But anyway, let's continue. I'm sorry. I'll try not to distract too much from the video.
High-G maneuvers for terror itself. This was insane. Because, again, jump points are fixed and there are well-established safety protocols to prevent people from landing on top of each other. No one had ever before, and no one has ever since tried to jump a fleet this size into such a small area. But these were extraordinary times. Jump safeties were overridden. and standard protocols thrown away. The order was for crews to jump as fast as possible, giving them 5 scant minutes to clear before the next group flew in. Kerensky made a small speech before the throwdown, and with that, it began. Amazingly, only 20 ships misjumped or had drive failures. Some emerged inside the other before exploding, and still the SLDF plowed onward. Through suicidal ramming tactics against the remaining drone ships, madman sacrifices, and a willingness to get this final task done at any cost. Through the loss of an enormous amount of lives, vessels, and time, Terra was finally open. Kerensky soon made landfall, taking to the field in his Orion battle mech.
Oh, no, so they already lost, you said 40 earlier. Then in something like 20 ships, when they did this, oh my gosh, I'm just imagining it, cause I'm not too far away from places where ships can dock and stuff, and I've seen those a few times when I've kind of dared to travel around, cause not all of California is completely bad, but the majority of it is. It's really bad here. Rescue me, please. But yeah, that being said, well, who am I kidding? If I can't make more from my job I have right now than anything else, then I'm probably not leaving anytime soon. So anyway, but yeah, I'm just imagining, kind of like how spaceships are kind of like ships, but in space, right? I'm just imagining, because I've seen, container ships and, those tanker ships, right? They're big. They're so huge. And then I got to see some of our military ships, and they're even bigger. And so, I'm just trying to imagine, when he said they all jumped to the same point, they're already big. And then trying to shove them all into a certain spot. And it doesn't say how many at a time. Oh my gosh. Desperate times indeed. But yeah, and they lost another 20, so that's... Oh my gosh. I really hope that the men in this universe, I hope they all got laid afterwards. I mean, come on. I mean, that's just, that is, I would expect that to be just a given at that point. Personally, right, as a thank you, these men are all owed something very, 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 I don't think being paid and, getting things would be enough for all of this. Me personally, I'd be like, okay, girls, are you single? Okay, well, these men just freed us from these evil tyrants, so, I think we should show these guys a good time.
30 divisions made the first drop under a canopy of all the aerospace fighters the SLDF had left.
Not me personally, of course, because, I'm, I consider myself, for someone else. But, it's come on. If you don't have anybody, and you're not married or nothing, and all those things, right? Why not get a soldier husband? As a reward for these guys' efforts. I mean, who am I kidding? That probably doesn't happen in this universe.
All space defense stations were silenced at great cost, and the warships hovered overhead to provide close orbital fire support. Kerensky landed himself to retake his hometown on the Moscow front. And there, in the ruins of his beloved Moscow, he saw what the Rimworld's Republic military had made of once magnificent cities. Needless to say, he was a bit mad at all this, and only accepted the surrender of the 33rd Amaris Dragoons after they pleaded with him for mercy. Any mercy. over 2 hours of sustained government-issue ass-kicking. Among the ruins of his hometown, Kerensky found his family, who had gone underground, endured, and formed the backbone of the local resistance movement. From this moment on, Kerensky fought with renewed purpose.
Okay, so, his family... Oh, that's right. That's right. If I remember correctly, they were fighting on Terra the whole time. Okay, that's right. Like, his sons, and I believe his, maybe his wife? And, I think there was a couple others. Oh, wait, no, there was probably a couple of them from, what were they called? They were the ones that almost stopped Amaris immediately. Bagpipes and, kilts and stuff. And really big necks. Blackwatch, that's right, okay. Blackwatch, okay. I almost forgot them for a second. So, there was them. I think that was it, though. But it's really cool he found his family. It's nice that his family survived. I was expecting kind of like, oh no, he finds them in the ashes of something or whatever, like another tragedy.
He was emboldened because in the ashes of Moscow, against all probability, he found his family alive and well and realized not all was lost. Kerensky ground Europe and Asia beneath his Mac for the next 2 years, breaking Amaris's grip on the world one division at a time, one city at a time, one fortress and strong point at a time. From Spain to the Far East, Kerensky conquered a hemisphere, deliberately searching out and eradicating every mode of resistance. Things got so bad for Amaris's
2 years. 2 years. Oh my gosh.
goons that resorted to using human shields and firefights as a regular battle tactic to slow SLDF operations. By the time Kerensky was ready to deal with Amaris proper, the war on Terra was years old and the planet extensively ravaged from sustained combat without any quarter. Amaris was using any means to slow the SLDF down, with battlefield nuclear ordnance being increasingly common. Amaris was in North America and Kerensky hit it with landings in Mexico and Alaska. He'd done his best to spare civilian casualties, but now was the time to end this madness. Now was the time to end Stefan Amaris's reign. Now was the time to capture Amaris and bring him to trial. Enough had died. Kerensky took the lead himself. It should be noted that the defense of North America might have succeeded if it weren't for Amaris being a goofy bastard and utterly mad at this point. The SLDF was beat to hell, and Amaris's goons were fighting like mad bastards from extensively well-prepared defenses. Amaris insisted on taking control of the defenses personally, and by the time the capital was surrounded, RimWorld's units were using mass suicide attacks to drive the enemy back at any cost. When Unity City fell and the SLDF marched in, Amaris had fled. As the SLDF slowly approached Amaris's last fortified holdings in North America, there was a pleasant surprise.
I really hate Amaris. I very much hate him. I cannot say that enough. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. I hate Amaris. I hate Amaris. I hate Amaris. I hate Amaris. I hate him so much. It's a good thing Kerensky existed, though.
While surrounding the last of Amaris's holdings on the Imperial City, SLDF patrols encountered a bare handful of hardened survivors. In heavy radiation gear and looking quite like mad wasteland warriors, from the irradiated hellscape of cratered occupied Terra emerged hardened freedom fighters. Among them, Elizabeth Hazen and Colleen Schmidt. They identified themselves as the ghosts of the Black Watch, and they had a modest request. They wanted a piece of the action. As it turns out, you can't kill the goddamn Black Watch. Nukes are merely inconvenient.
Of course. Of course, yeah. Yeah, I remember that part. I remember that part. They were just like, well, they're just noobs.
The coup and the brutal realities of the occupation, the Black Watch had been reborn as the ghosts of the Black Watch and had dedicated their entire energies of every waking day to fight Amaris at every possible turn. Their chief occupation for the better part of a decade had been vengeance upon the usurper. In order, so far they had survived nuclear bombardment, hunter-killer task forces, assassins, and all the mercenaries hired to make them go away. For over a decade, Amaris had been haunted by the sound of bagpipes in his distant memory, and further memories of satchel charges narrowly missing the opportunity to delete him. For 10 years, Amaris had worried about the possible survivors and had sent his best operatives again and again to wipe them out, and one by one the Black Watch had put them all in the cold ground. And now, on the eve of the endgame, they reappeared to serve once more.
For over a decade. My gosh. For over a decade. I mean, I'm thinking between, like, when I was, like, 14. Till now. And it's like, my gosh. So, like Earth was, and, like, Terra was, like, being terrorized by Amaris. This evil, like, communist, leftist, like authoritarian ruler. For over a decade. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Well, at least Kerensky's here now. I know, this isn't real, but a lot of this comes from real life. And these types of things have actually happened, so like, not of course like this thing exactly, but like, a lot of it.
They provided Kerensky with incredibly detailed intelligence, noting exact pro-Amaris divisions and operatives, their location, strength, patrol routes, and habits. They'd prepared for the liberation by causing chaos as only they could. And for their last request, they wanted back in the SLDF to take to the field once more and help finish the job. Kerensky said yes. The legendary Black Watch mounted up and from there on out participated in the final SLDF military operations to bring Amaris down, serving as a furious sledgehammer force and leading the weary SLDF through its hardest fights. It is my opinion that these legendary warriors appearing at this very critical moment gave the SLDF that last, necessary push to see this through to the very end. In a sense, they represented the greatness of the SLDF, never backing down from a challenge, taking betrayal and even nukes with a laugh, and always coming back for another dose of glorious justice. Through this, the Black Watch would have their vengeance done. The only thing left was to take Amaris down. Amaris had fled to his imperial palace deep in the secluded Canadian wilderness, guarded by a final garrison. The final operation was Kerensky, his right-hand man, General Aaron de Chevalier, and members of the 26th and 328th Royal Battle Mech Divisions. The last major battle of Amaris Civil War ended with Kerensky kicking in the front door of Amaris' palace with his Orion battle mech and demanding Amaris' surrender.
I can't say this enough times. I really hate that man. Even though he's a fictional character, he is built upon, like, real life, authoritarian, like, dictator, communist tyrants, And so, like, hating him is like the same as, like, hating them, essentially. And I hate him so much. I really hate him.
And Amaris did.
Too bad they don't just stomp on him with a mech and just, like, get it over with. Come on. What point is there to, like, allow them to exist anymore? You know, I think my anger and like my rage against where I live kind of leaks into this a bit, huh? I think maybe that's it. Maybe it's on my repressed, like, feelings over all stuff like this. Maybe that's what it is.
And with that, the war came to an end. Once Amaris had ordered his men to stand down, there were only a few thousand left. Earth was a near ruin, much of its population homeless or starving. Kerensky had tried to spare civilian populations the worst of it, but Amaris had not. All in some way bore the marks of the conflict. After capture initially, Kerensky was keen to treat Amaris and his family with respect due as they were still royalty, and laws applied regarding their treatment. Kerensky was, if anything, up to this point observant of the laws and regulations of his oaths. Kerensky made certain Amaris had everything a deposed noble should. His family was kept in surviving luxury accommodation while forces gathered to debate what should happen.
Much more than he deserves. I really hope that, like, Amaris ends up, like, being executed. That's what I hope for. It might not happen, right? Because Kerensky's like a really good guy, but, like, I really think you could use the luxury space for someone more deserving.
That was until people discovered how this had all started. It is of note that the SLDF had no idea what happened to the Camerons beyond rumor. They had assumed Cameron was kept as a captive, and that would be used as leverage if Amaris ever needed a quick way out. A bargaining chip perhaps kept in a gilded cage.
Oh, no. Okay, maybe things might change if they find out what actually happened. Ooh, I look forward to that.
But that was not to be. 2 weeks after Amaris' surrender, the Imperial throne room was unsealed for the first time since the coup, since the massacre of House Cameron, and within the SLDF found the rotting carcasses of the entire Cameron family. The tomb of House Cameron shocked the SLDF.
Oh, so they did... Oh my gosh, so they didn't even clean it up or anything. They just... Oh my gosh. Again, I mean, he may not have been a good kid, but still... Poor Richard. Whether or not Richard was like a good one or a bad one. Like, okay, you know what, debatable. Maybe Richard really did, like, mess up a lot, but I don't think it should have extended to his entire family. I mean, poor Richard was enough, but, like, for his whole just... Then again, I mean, these are like space communists, essentially. That's what they do.
It gutted them. Kerensky had to see it for himself. Kerensky stood in the throne room for 30 minutes, examined how this had all started, drinking in the details of the massacre and the awful desecration and how the bodies were merely sealed in and forgotten about. Kerensky thought about things for 30 minutes, and 30 minutes only. Before he flew out to Amaris' hotel, he had decided on what to finally do with Stefan Amaris. There was no trial. There were no words. Kerensky dragged Amaris, his family, his retainers and advisors out of their accommodations and put them against a wall. And on his order, he had them all shot.
You know what? Yep, this was pretty much what I was hoping for. I'm very happy that Kerensky came to this conclusion.
Terra was in ruins. Star League was gutted. The hegemony, a series of cratered, scarred worlds with displaced populations. The SLDF were now all veteran soldiers without much in terms of guidance, cause, or even a home. Many of them had been wounded multiple times and found ways to continue on. Their victory now seemed, if anything, hollow misery. The fleet was a collection of scarred vessels held together by jury-rigged repairs, stolen parts, and ragged determination. Star League was now a distant idea, a memory that had sustained them up to this point through hell, through enormous loss time and again, and now nothing to show for it. The SLDF was down to at best a quarter of its pre-Civil War manpower, its fighting men and women shells of the people they had once been, used, abused, and wounded by the horrors of war. Many of them factually now had no homes, or even if they could return, they were so scarred and twisted by the conflict they'd never fit in. The war had made them ghosts. In the very end, Kerensky had 113 divisions left, many of them severely under strength, missing critical components. Most of them were patchwork divisions made of survivors, volunteers, mercenaries, and replacements. The once proud SLDF was a mob of soldiers reduced to understrength units barely maintaining cohesion as a fighting force. And soon enough, things would get far worse. The great houses, seeing opportunity, began to act. They would occupy the remaining hegemony worlds for their own good, and soon assembled to decide a new First Lord.
Of course. And here comes the children. They spoiled brats. I swear that's what they seem like to me. I mean, these are, of course, like, all supposedly, like, older people, right? They're all adults, but, like, they're like petulant children adults. Like, they never grew up. It's just, my gosh.
After the fall of Terra and the death of Stefan Amaris, the Council Lords of Star League made their first decision. They stripped Kerensky of his command responsibilities, the title of Protector and all that entailed. Soon after, they began to squabble for power as there was no rightful inheritor of First Lord.
Of course. Of course. It's disappointing, but I mean, it immediately makes sense. From what I remember from the last time, they didn't really give him much. They didn't help him out a lot. And they just stayed out of the way, right? And then they just, of course it was inevitable they were gonna stab him in the back after he saved everybody.
Each lord in turn would claim the title of First Lord for themselves and agreed that the council would be dissolved by the lords on 12th of August, 2781. And with that last act, Star League was dead. General Aaron de Chevalier, Kerensky's right-hand man, immediately proposed Kerensky overthrow the House Lords and restore the inner sphere without their petty bickering. General de Chevalier told Kerensky the SLDF was with him and was prepared to strike, to overthrow the unworthy House Lords and solve the succession crisis with the might of the SLDF, to bring an end to all of this madness once and for all, to lead them into a golden age, with worthy leadership steering humanity toward a bright and noble future. And Kerensky said no.
Yeah, I had a feeling that's what would happen. But it seems like, I think things would have been better with him saying, yes rather than no. It's just too bad that things don't work out like that, do they? It's just too bad. He's too good of a man to, take the power and say, you know what? All of you can go to hell. We want better for all humankind. You know, that kind of thing. I think with someone like him, it could have been done, but I mean, things don't work out that way in reality either.
Kerensky refused because he would not turn his guns on what he'd sworn to protect. In fact, Kerensky spent the next few years trying his hardest to reconvene the Great Lords, traveling extensively, trying to get refuge for the displaced millions, trying to desperately to rebuild the hegemony, trying to desperately restart Starleague, its bureaucracy, its systems of governance. Kerensky visited the Lords to try to get them to come together, to agree on basic humanitarian principles, and above all, continue the Starleague he had fought so hard for, its ideologies being something that sustained hope. And one by one, the great lords of the Inner Sphere told him to fuck off. All of this didn't faze former General Kerensky. He was now an old man who'd fought his whole life for something that they'd just signed away. He fought on, still for what he believed as what he saw as his duty to never give up. But soon, he became alarmed in discovering that the great houses were each preparing for war, to absorb the hegemony in totality, to split it up like spoils and then duke it out amongst themselves for supremacy. In doing so, they were intending to poach the remaining Starleague Defense Force to bolster their now rapidly growing house armies.
Oh. Well, that's wonderful. Again, it just seems like such petulant children. Like, toddlers fighting over toys. My gosh, for all of this to go, to happen, and then for it all to go this way, I would have preferred him saying, go to hell, and I'm taking over now. That's what I would have done, personally, but then again, I'm a woman, and women really, we really should not be in charge of much. I mean, everything just shows it like that, We're just not, it's just not our thing. That said, if I were, Kerensky, I'd be like, yep, go to hell. Go to hell. You guys made this easier for him by doing nothing, so, you don't get to be in charge anymore. That's, that's just wishful thinking, I think.
And that was the final straw for Kerensky. It was too much. When a few war-weary units began to defect to the growing house militaries, and with the portent of war growing daily, Kerensky made a plan. He was going to pick up and leave. Kerensky brought his idea to the sole surviving Starleague bureaucrat. Jerome Blake was the head of SL Comnet and desperately trying to fix the damaged HPG network. He was so respected for his impartial reputation and integrity that in 2780, he was offered the position of Minister of Communications of Starleague, a nation that now didn't exist. He was the last vestige of the old regime, the last bureaucrat, the last Starleague official. And it was something he really didn't even notice because he was trying to reinstate the first circuit of the HPG network at the time. His nomination was one of the last few things the Great Lords ever agreed on, other than stripping Kerensky of all power and going back to arguing over who was now First Lord. When Kerensky confessed his intentions, Blake was furious, but agreed to prevent anybody from ever finding out until Kerensky was gone, on a few conditions. Conditions that Kerensky agreed to. With secrecy assured, Kerensky assembled the remnants of the SLDF and addressed its officers in a warehouse, despite having been formally removed from his rank by the Lords of Star League. He told them that his intentions were to take the Star League Defense Force, its stockpiles of weapons and technology, and leave the Inner Sphere forever. He said that the spirit of the Star League was alive in all of those who had suffered with him, and that they could leave the coming storm to take the weapons and technology away from the people intent on destroying everything. He discussed even perhaps to return someday, to restore order and sanity, and perhaps hope. The majority of the assembled SLDF agreed to this plan with a standing ovation. A small percentage wanted to stay, thinking abandoning Terra and the hegemony was a betrayal of ideals. Kerensky created a poll and asked every member of the SLDF their choice, stay or go. Almost 80% sided with Kerensky, and unlike Amaris, this vote was legitimate, and so they planned to run. Run far away off the edge of the known map, to the deep periphery and beyond. To make this happen, the SLDF more or less stole everything they could. They looted and tore down supply yards across the hegemony regardless of what flag flew over them.
Well, I would think that, all this is like stuff that belonged to them anyway, right? So, is it really stealing? I mean, is it really like, if it's your own stuff, right? And it's everything you've been using, and it's all the stuff that you've, built up while during this war. It's theirs, isn't it? Or at least, I would think it would be.
Hasty repairs were conducted round the clock in the few reactivated SLDF fleet yards which had survived the war. Military bases were completely stripped. All remaining funds were used to buy supplies on any market. They would not be coming back this lifetime. On 8th of July, the SLDF issued a single word through the HPG network: Exodus. And at that moment, across 50 star systems, the SLDF mobilized one last time and jumped for a brave new future beyond the reaches of the Inner Sphere. Their descendants would later return nearly 265 years later, but that's a story for another time. With them went the last vestiges of Star League. Some of the bravest men and women of the Inner Sphere. Some of the bravest men and women the Inner Sphere would ever know took part in one last heroic act to save what they believed in by taking their skill set and weapons out of the hands of those who'd used them senselessly. Soon enough, the Inner Sphere would descend into total war over the notion of succession over the position of First Lord. The succession wars would rage for 200 years without decisive outcome. Rather than slam the door shut on all this, I'll tie up a few loose threads, as I'll know you'll want to know. Maybe not all of these threads, because I'd like to leave room for future talks, so let's get down to it.
So, this all sounds very biblical. Amazingly, Bible story level. Just the... I don't know if anybody else feels like this, but, as a younger person, maybe that's a thing. But, when I've read the Bible and stories and, just myths and legends, this gives me that same feeling, And yes, I do read those things. In between my other questionable reading materials. But, that's the feel this all gives to me. And I really enjoy that.
Jerome Blake agreed to conceal Kerensky's movement and departure in exchange. for assistance. Kerensky convinced staying elements of the SLDF to protect the first circuit of SL Comnet, to preserve just a notion of Starleague and the hegemony from the coming storm. A bastion of the old guard, making sure at least the basics of Starleague survived. Blake took it upon himself to preserve as much technological knowledge as possible with the total collapse of Starleague, and to further that he knew he had to maintain control of the interstellar communications network he'd spent his life building. By 2785, the Starleague Department of Communications was renamed to Comstar. Blake managed to gain the support of the House Lords with the communications protocols of 2787 and soon declared Terra off limits, promising neutrality and communication services to all so long as that neutrality was observed in turn. The SLDF units who stayed to protect his mission became the Com Guards, and Blake's doings over time would become legend. After Amaris' death, Kerensky didn't simply want to die.
You'll hate this man very much, so much. Extemporaneous much. Hate this man. Hate him so much, I cannot say that enough. I am happy he is dead.
Amaris' body, for he feared supporters of the madman might be convinced that he never died and was waiting to return. He also didn't want him buried, so as to prevent the gravesite from being a shrine to the fucker. So Kerensky dropped Amaris' fat corpse off at the New Samarkand Medical School to be publicly part of their display and studies for generations.
Oh gosh. So basically they turned his body into a like a mad scientist, thing. Like I mean, okay. There is some places where you can work on like cadavers, and like and like dead people who, they what they did was they like there's different ways this happens, but people that can actually give up like their bodies for like medical training or scientific purposes. I don't know if a lot of people know that. But yeah, so I'm just thinking of Amaris just being like, some team of doctors like unwitting test subject for something, and he's dead, and like his corpse is getting just no respect or dignity whatsoever. That sounds so good to me.
Medical students could see what a fat idiot looked like. That is until the secession wars caused such a loss of technology that the stasis system stopped working, and they just dumped his body somewhere. For all we know, Amaris' corpse is in a dumpster behind Golden Corral. The sole surviving piece of the glorious Black Watch, a battle-scarred, irradiated mech hand actuator, was recovered and displayed by the mercenary unit, the North Wind Highlanders, who would preserve and venerate it for generations to come. They would tell the story of the Black Watch, of their bravery and madness and glory. They would keep the traditions of kilts, whiskey, and murder alive for centuries on. When the Inner Sphere needed a new Black Watch, the North Wind Highlanders formed one, remembering the lessons of the old and upholding them as best they were able. The 3rd Star League Regimental Combat Team decided to stay in the Inner Sphere. They loved the Rosselhog district more than the unknown. When Kerensky left, they lowered the Star League flag and put it away. They also lowered their regimental flag, the Eridani Light Horse, to half-mast in solemn observation. Ever since, at every headquarters they have ever had, they have kept a bare flagpole for the return of Star League. They served honorably as elite mercenaries for generations afterward. They would also eventually form the point of the spear in conquering Huntress and driving Clan Smoke Jaguar to extinction in Operation Bulldog. The 81st Star League Mechanized Infantry Division became the infamous 4th Tau Ceti Rangers, surviving as celebrated mercenaries for centuries, applying their hard-won combat skills for coin and cleavage. The 151st Royal Battle Mech Regiment stayed to form the backbone of the Comm Guards and would give them discipline, training, and the military credence to protect the order until they...
I just now thought of this. I'm sorry. I just now thought of this. You said coin and cleavage. He should have said cleavage then coin. That's how it really should be. I mean, honestly. I mean, come on. The girls are giving it away for free anyway. They might as well embrace it, be what they are, and, maybe have some good times in the meantime, Anyway, but yeah, it should be cleavage and coin.
They were needed centuries later. The Black Watch commander Honey Schmidt's daughter, Colleen Schmidt, survived the war after fighting Amaris as a resistance fighter from her base in the Cascade Mountains.
Colleen, Schmidt, her name just sounds like tough. It just sounds like a gritty woman. Why do I say that? Well, I knew an older woman named Colleen, and, her name was spelled with a K. I assume this one's with a C. And she was riding horses at 78. It was just always something to see, really. I mean, and then I heard before that she was in the army. And that she was she was some kind of medical personnel. Or something like that. Oh no, yeah, what she would do is that she would end up as one of the medics for the frontline guys. I forget what that's called though. Yeah, she did something like that, and then when she got out of the army, then she worked at a hospital for a while, until she retired again. But yeah, it sounds like a really strong name. But, it makes me think of strong woman. But, I don't know, what do you guys think? Do I think it sounds like a strong name? Indicating a strong woman because I've known one? Or just because it sounds that way? You tell me.
She later joined Kerensky in the Exodus. In time, she would eventually become the first Khan of Clan Blood Spirit and found the Schmidt blood heritage, spawning several future Khans and living on today as an honored blood name in clan society. Major Elizabeth Hazen of Black Watch fame survived the coup, the nukes, the occupation, and fought Amaris until he died as a guerrilla fighter throughout the long occupation of Terra.
Hazen sounds pretty tough, but that's a last name. I mean, Elizabeth it doesn't sound like a strong name. When I think of an Elizabeth, I think, prim and proper, some of my grandma's friends. They would show up to her place dressed up like they were going to a ball party or something, and that was just their normal clothes. That's what I think of when I hear Elizabeth. But Hazen, okay, now that changes it for me. But what do you guys think?
She earned with distinction the Star League Medal of Honor. She was, in fact, the very last person ever awarded that medal before Star League collapsed. Rather than stay in the military, she tendered her resignation and recuperated in a remote monastery. She also took up falconry as a hobby. When Kerensky committed to the Exodus, she enlisted and rejoined the SLDF. In Exodus, she would become one of the 4 founders of Clan Jade Falcon. Major Philip Drummond, a member of Amaris's own 832nd Amaris Dragoons, had defected to Kerensky during the Rimworld's Republic campaign, rather than serve the usurper any longer. He joined the SLDF, keeping his commission, and joined the general in the Exodus. In time, he would become the first Khan of Clan Novacat, and of note, the only Khan who was at one point Amaris's man. Franklin Osis, a tank commander in the SLDF 238th Armored Division, would join the Exodus to become a farmer. Completely tired of conflict, circumstances would change him drastically, and after a span of time, he became first Khan of Clan Smoke Jaguar. And some I know will ask, so let's get to it. What about the Periphery? Well, for a time it turned into a total shithole. You see, the Periphery was utterly smashed by its own reckless campaign of hippity-hoppity, get-off-my-property, I have nuclear weapons style of warfighting. And then it emboldened terrorist groups to fight the SLDF, terrorist groups they funded and equipped, terrorist groups that then refused to listen to the government once the SLDF left. After all, those people felt like they were entitled to a piece of the action. Also, while the SLDF had conquered them in an age of reunification, it had also rebuilt them. No more Star League meant no more reconstruction, and many places more or less collapsed. The Rimworld Republic fell apart or was annexed, or one and then the other alternatively. New powers in time rose, but never to the extent of the old Periphery's strength. And for a time, the SLDF itself faded into legend, falling into the memory of distant past. And deep beyond the Periphery, General Kerensky made one last broadcast. It was sent via radio and would have only reached the Inner Sphere 1,000 years later. Interestingly enough, the Inner Sphere would not have to wait 1,000 years to hear the final words of Kerensky. It was intercepted by Task Force Serpent on their way to destroy Clan Smoke Jaguar. It was not a bitter message after all he'd been through, but Kerensky's last words toward the Inner Sphere were a message of hope.
To all citizens of the Inner Sphere, to I, Alexander Kerensky, send greetings. Know that I have taken the remnant of the Star League Defense Force, which has remained true to its purpose, beyond the boundaries of the Inner Sphere, beyond the Periphery. I have done this, neither out of disappointment with those whom we leave behind, nor out of spite or disdain, as some will say. No, we have left the Inner Sphere because we love it too much to see it destroyed. In the wake of the usurper's coup, and the long, bitter fighting that came with it, I fear that my forces would do incalculable, possibly irreparable harm to our society. We are sworn to ward the Star League and its subjects, not destroy it. Thus, we have left the only homes we have ever known to place the destructive capability of this armada beyond the reach of those who would use it, not for defense, but for conquest. Perhaps, with the might of our mechs and ships out of reach, the leaders who now grapple with one another will relinquish their dreams of subjugating their neighbors and learn to live in peace with them. Perhaps, one day, should mankind step back from the brink of the abyss, we, our children, or our children's children, will return to once more serve and protect and guide the Star League in mankind's quest for the stars. Farewell.
He was too nice. He, to my thinking, like everything they have been through, everything else, I'd just be like, you all suck. Go to hell. You know, just like, I would not be very happy that I would have been made to make this decision if it was me. Like, I'd be so mad. Oh, you guys can't stop being, overgrown children about everything. Okay, well then, here you go. We're gonna end up being your new rulers. Oh, I think I don't remember where I got this. But I heard that oh, what's the saying? Something like hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, right? I don't think I'm disproving that right now.
And on that note, I think I'll wrap this up. So again, thank you for tuning in. I know there's a lot more I could have easily covered, from the fate of the Dreadnought to the history of the Rimworld Republic to what became of Kerensky and his family. I could have talked about the McKenna's pride, but I may cover all those things in the future, so for now, let's part ways. I just want to say thank you for your support. Keep in mind this channel is entirely supported by viewers like you who have opted to give a shit. I appreciate your time and good thoughts and encouragement. They sustain me in some very dark times, and you guys have carried me when I had no hope or want to keep doing what I do, and I thank you for it deeply. This last year has been perhaps the hardest of my life, and you guys have all been pretty fucking phenomenal, so thank you. And well, on a more positive note, things aren't so bad for us mech fans. We're probably gonna get a lot more people interested in this wonderful setting thanks to MechWarrior 5 coming out, and well, fuck. Well, refund the clock it is. Well, at least some people's hearts are in the right place, right? So look, please hear me and try not to be total grognards toward these new folks. You're gonna see a lot of newbies, and they're gonna annoy the hell out of us at first.
And I'm one of them. It's very nice to meet you. I look forward to our time together.
But I'm begging you guys, I'm begging you to accept these people with open arms and to teach them our ways, to hate clanners for being smug assholes, and to trust Capellans and laugh at Kurita and love trash cans. Teach them the story of Kerensky and Tukiat. Teach them the joys and sorrows of this great setting. And lastly, why you should always pay your bills, fucko. Be good mech warriors, and teach a new generation the joy of what we have. I think we'll be able to make the world a little bit better if we try. Or just wreck them on tabletop and say, welcome aboard, fucko. Anyways.
Attention, free birth scum. I am the Khan of Smoke Jaguar. You have made a mockery of our ways through the use of your weapon known as humor for far too long.
Genetically engineered losers who don't understand good jokes say what?
What?
I completely forgot about that guy, actually.
Well, while he's thinking about that, class dismissed. Those mercs we hired ought to tie him up. All right, boys and girls, to the dropship.
You cannot flee my wrath. I will leave you. And he's leaving. This is ridiculous. He promised he would stay this time.
Sayonara, you motherfuckers!
There's more?
You dare to refuse my bajol?
Hey folks, welcome to Uncle Bucky's Urban Mech Emporium, your one-stop shop for urban mechs.
Oh, is this where ads start? Okay, is this the end, or is this the... Okay, because, I was told there were some parts that I could skip. Oh, but I don't know which ones. Oh, well, this is basically the end anyway. I think. Yeah, this is just like the ads, I think. Okay. And right here. Yeah, this seems like the actual end.
Van Zant, 2 miles west of the spaceport down by the Colden fucking.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that was pretty cool. So, as promised, everybody, I have finished the 2 videos, and very well done. Very well done. Very nice. And just, I mean, they kept me, like, hooked in. I barely did any commentary. I barely said much, but, like, it's just so good. It is just really good. Not to mention, like, I'm not a gamer, right? But I like a lot of, I'm seeming to like a lot more of, like, the gamey stuff, You know what I mean? So yeah, like, this was cool. So, let me know, your thoughts in the comments, everyone. I will see you again as soon as I can. Badger said he's moving, but, I guess we will see. And then, I will try to go live more often. I miss you guys. So, be good. And I will see all of you in the next one. I love you all. Bye!